It's the sound I remember first, not the fall itself. That was just a blur of green and brown, a sudden absence of ground beneath my feet. No, the sound was the wet, grinding crack when I landed. It was the sound of my own tibia snapping. You don't forget a sound like that. It's a sound that tells you in no uncertain terms that you are well and truly fucked. I was in a hole. A narrow, damp-smelling cave at the bottom of what felt like a small cliff face I hadn't even seen. Darkness wasn't just around me, it felt like it was inside me, a heavy blanket smothering the last bits of hope. This is it, I thought, this is how it ends. Not in a blaze of glory, but in a muddy hole bleeding out, listening to the slow drip of water somewhere nearby. I lay there for God knows how long, drifting in and out of consciousness, the pain in my leg a roaring fire that consumed everything. Then a flicker, a stupid, impossible flicker of light. It was my phone, which had somehow landed beside me, screen miraculously intact. I sobbed, I actually cried with relief, and through the tears I saw it, one bar. A single, beautiful, impossible bar of service. You have no idea what that felt like. It was like a lifeline thrown from heaven itself. My fingers were clumsy, slick with mud and probably my own blood, but I managed to dial 911. It rang, it actually rang. A voice answered, a woman's voice, so calm, so professional. 911, what is your emergency? Help me, I gasped, the words tumbling out of me. My name is Gideon Fletcher. I fell, I'm in a cave, I think. My leg is broken, God, it's really bad. There was a soft clicking of a keyboard on the other end. Okay, sir, stay calm. Can you tell me your location? I gave her the name of the trail, the park, everything I could remember, more clicking. Then a pause, her voice, when it came back, had the same flat, placid tone. It was the voice of someone giving you the weekend weather forecast. Sir, I'm looking at the records now. Gideon Fletcher was reported missing in that area 3 days ago. Yes, that's me. I'm alive, I screamed, a hysterical laugh bubbling in my throat. The operator, Nora, she called herself, didn't share my relief. Her tone didn't change, not by a single degree. I understand, sir, but the search and rescue operation was officially reclassified to a recovery mission yesterday morning. I'm very sorry, but our protocol doesn't allow for a live location trace on an individual who has already been confirmed as deceased. For a second, the line was just dead air. I thought maybe I'd lost the signal. I would have preferred that, honestly. Anything would have been better than what she said next. Sir, are you still there? The same voice, unflustered, calm. What do you mean confirmed as deceased? I shouted, my voice cracking. I'm talking to you right now. This is my voice. I'm alive, goddammit. I started rattling off information. Anything I could think of that would prove I was me, that I was here. My birthday is April 12th, 1988. My social security number is… I yelled the 9 digits into the phone, my breath coming in ragged bursts. Ask me anything. My mother's maiden name is Peterson. My first pet was a hamster named Squeaky. How could a dead man know that? There was more typing. I could picture her perfectly. Sitting in a sterile, brightly lit room, headset on, looking at a screen with my face and a big red deceased stamp over it. The image made me want to vomit. I appreciate you providing that information, Mr. Fletcher, she said, and the politeness was somehow the cruelest part of it all. It's all correct. It matches the information in the missing persons file. Then what the hell is the problem? The problem, sir, she said, her voice dropping into a tone that was almost therapeutic, like she was talking a jumper off a ledge, is that the file was closed yesterday. The coroner's office has been notified. According to official records, you are no longer an active case. I felt a new kind of terror creeping in, cold and sharp. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a wall, a bureaucratic brick wall she was building around me, one calm, insane sentence at a time. This is a joke. It has to be a prank. Are you even a real operator? I can assure you this is a secure line to the emergency dispatch center, she replied, completely unbothered. Sir, it's not uncommon for the mind to create echoes in moments of extreme trauma. The paramedics call it post-mortem consciousness. The brain can continue to generate experiences for a short time. She was telling me I was a ghost, a dying echo in a machine. The rage that hit me was so intense it momentarily eclipsed the pain in my leg. It was a hot, pure fury at the sheer monolithic stupidity of it all. Listen to me, you fucking idiot, I snarled, all pretense of a desperate victim gone. I am not a fucking echo. I am a man in a hole with a broken leg. Send help now. There was another pause. For a moment I thought I'd broken through. Then she said, I'm sorry, sir, but I have to keep the line clear for verifiable emergencies. I truly hope you find peace. And then she hung up. The silence that followed was louder than my screams had been. It was the silence of a world that had already written me off, a world that had filled out the paperwork on my death and moved on. I wasn't just trapped, I had been erased. I don't know how long I sat there just staring at the phone in my hand. The single bar of service felt like a mockery. A window into a world that had locked its doors and drawn the curtains. My leg was a universe of pain, but the feeling in my gut was worse. It was the feeling of being utterly, completely alone, not just physically, but existentially. I was a glitch in the system, a rounding error. The call had drained my battery down to 8%, 8% to convince the world I was still in it. My first thought was to call back, to scream at a different operator, but the fear that I'd get her again was paralyzing. What if she was the only one? What if the whole system was like her? Cold, calm, and utterly convinced I was already gone, so I did the only other thing I could think of. I opened a web browser. The signal was painfully slow, pages timing out, but I finally managed to load the forum. It was an old-school hiking and survivalist board I used to browse. No frills, just text, perfect. My fingers were shaking so badly I could barely type. I started a new thread. The title felt absurd as I typed it out. Help 911 says I'm already dead, trapped in cave, leg broken. In the body of the post, I poured out everything. The fall, the injury, the insane call with Nora. I described my location as best I could, the trail name, the last landmark I remembered seeing. I begged anyone, a park ranger, another hiker, anyone who might be in the area to look for me. I hit post and watched the little loading icon spin for what felt like an eternity. Finally, it went through. Then nothing, just the silence of the cave and the slow drip of water. Waiting for a reply on an obscure internet forum felt like the most pathetic, hopeless act of my life. I was a 21st century man screaming into the digital void. To stop myself from going insane, I forced my mind backward, before the fall, before the pain. I replayed the morning in my head, the drive to the park, filling my water bottle at the trailhead, and then a detail surfaced, a small, insignificant conversation. There was a park ranger at the trailhead kiosk, a woman. She was checking permits. I remembered her because she had this incredibly calm, almost unnerving stillness about her. She wasn't smiling, but she wasn't frowning either. Her expression was just neutral, blank. She'd looked at my permit, then looked me dead in the eye and said, "The Upper Ridge Trail is a bit unstable today. Be careful." I'd thanked her and moved on. But now, lying in the dark, I tried to conjure her face, her voice. It was a soft voice, measured, the kind of voice that never gets loud. And the more I thought about it, the more a cold dread trickled down my spine. Her calm, detached tone, her placid, unreadable eyes, it was her, it was Nora's voice, I was sure of it. But that made no sense. A park ranger in the field wouldn't be answering 911 calls. It had to be a coincidence. It had to be. My mind was just playing tricks on me, traumatized and desperate to find a pattern in the chaos. It had to be. The battery was down to 4%. The forum was silent, no replies. No saviors, just my post hanging in cyberspace, likely being dismissed as a troll or a creepypasta. The thought of my last lifeline draining away, second by second, was more terrifying than the throbbing in my leg. I had to do something. I had to try calling again. My thumb hovered over the emergency call button. My heart was pounding. Please, I prayed to whatever might be listening, don't let it be her. Let it be anyone else, a man, an old woman, a bored teenager, anyone but Nora. I pressed the button. The call connected almost instantly. 911, this is Nora. What is your emergency? My blood ran cold. It was like a nightmare you can't wake up from. The same voice. The same infuriatingly placid tone. For a moment I couldn't speak. All the anger, all the fight just evaporated, leaving behind a hollow despair. "It's me again," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "Gideon Fletcher." "The dead man." "Sir," she began, and I could hear the faint, almost imperceptible sigh of someone dealing with a persistent annoyance. "We've already been over this. This line is for active emergencies. Continuing to call is a misuse of emergency services." "Just tell me why," I pleaded, my anger replaced by a desperate need to understand. "Why are you doing this? Is this some kind of sick joke?" "It's not a joke, sir, it's protocol. The file is closed. There is nothing more I can do." She was a broken record. A wall of procedure. I was about to hang up, to give in, to just let the battery die and accept my fate, but then I heard it, in the background on her end of the line, a sound. It was faint, almost lost beneath her voice, but it was clear, a bird chirping, a distinct three-note call, cheer, cheer, cheery up. My entire body went rigid. I'm a bird watcher. It's a stupid hobby I picked up from my dad, but I know my calls. And that sound was unmistakable. It was a white-crowned sparrow, and not just any white-crowned sparrow. They have regional dialects like people. And that specific call, that exact lilting melody, I had heard it all morning. It was the song of the sparrows in this specific national park. I'd even pointed it out to my girlfriend on our last trip here, how they sounded different from the ones in our backyard. An emergency dispatch center is a soundproofed, sterile environment. It's a concrete box filled with electronics and stressed out people. There would be no birdsong, no gentle chirping of a white-crowned sparrow from the forests of the Pacific Northwest. The pieces in my head didn't just click into place, they slammed together with the force of a car crash. The park ranger at the kiosk, the calm, detached voice, the birdsong. She wasn't in a call center hundreds of miles away. She was here, she was in the park, right now, probably sitting in that same wooden kiosk at the trailhead, looking out at the very trees I had walked past hours ago. She wasn't a disinterested bureaucrat, she was the gatekeeper, and for some reason she had decided to leave me for dead. The phone in my hand no longer felt like a lifeline. It felt like a leash connecting me directly to the person who was trying to kill me. That realization changed everything. The fog of despair and confusion burned away, replaced by a terrifying crystal clarity. This wasn't a bureaucratic nightmare, it was an execution. Nora wasn't an operator, she was my would-be murderer, calmly and politely trying to talk me into my own grave. The why was a horrifying mystery, but it didn't matter right now. What mattered was that the rules of the game had fundamentally shifted. I wasn't a victim waiting for rescue anymore. I was prey and the predator was on the other end of the line, thinking I was still helpless. My battery was at 2%, one last roll of the dice. "You're right," I said into the phone, and I was amazed at how steady my own voice sounded. I pitched it low, filled with a fake resignation. "I'm sorry, I think you're right. I'm just confused, it's so dark down here." "It's okay, sir," Nora said, her tone softening ever so slightly. The condescending sympathy was back. "It's a natural part of the process. Just try to relax." "Yeah," I breathed, "relax, okay." I had to keep her on the line, had to keep her thinking she had me. "Hey Nora, before I go, can you tell me something? Is it sunny out? I can't remember what the sun feels like." There was a short pause. "Yes, Gideon," she said, using my first name for the first time. It felt like a violation. "It's a beautiful, sunny afternoon. The trees are green, everything is very peaceful up here." She was looking right at it. While I was dying in the dark, she was enjoying a beautiful day. The rage gave me strength. "Thank you, Nora," I whispered. "That's nice to know," and I ended the call. The pain in my leg was a white-hot agony, but I ignored it. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I wasn't a hiker with a broken leg anymore. I was an animal in a trap, and I was going to chew my own leg off to get free. My backpack was a few feet away. I crawled, dragging my useless limb behind me, gritting my teeth against the waves of nausea. Every inch was a victory. I finally reached it and tore it open. Water bottle, half a protein bar, a multi-tool, and a small, powerful LED headlamp. I strapped the headlamp on and flicked it on. The beam cut through the oppressive darkness, revealing the tight, damp walls of my prison. It wasn't a large cave, more like a fissure in the rock. The opening I'd fallen through was a jagged hole in the ceiling, 10 feet up. No way to climb out, not with a shattered leg, but the beam of light showed me something else. The fissure didn't just end. It continued, narrowing into a tight, dark passage at the far end of the small chamber. It looked impossibly small, probably just a dead end. But it was the only other option. I took a deep swig of water, ate the last of the protein bar, and looked at my leg. This was going to be hell. I used the multi-tool to cut strips from my backpack's nylon straps and cinch them around my leg, trying to immobilize the break as best I could. It was a pathetic splint, but it was something. Then I started to crawl. I pushed the backpack ahead of me and dragged myself toward that dark opening, one agonizing inch at a time. The sound of my own ragged breathing and the scraping of my body against the rock was the only sound in the world. I wasn't thinking about rescue anymore. I was only thinking about the sun. And about the woman who had tried to steal it from me. I was going to see her again. I was going to walk out of this hole and see her face when she realized her dead man had come back. I crawled for hours, or maybe it was minutes. Time ceased to have meaning in the tight, suffocating darkness. There was only the scrape of rock against my skin, the searing fire in my leg, and the single-minded focus on moving forward. The passage twisted and turned, sometimes so narrow I had to exhale to squeeze my chest through. More than once I was sure I was stuck, that I would die right there, wedged in the earth. But the image of Nora's calm, blank face and the sound of the sparrow in the background of her call became a burning coal in my gut, pushing me onward. Finally, I felt a change in the air. A faint, almost imperceptible draft, and I could smell it, pine needles and damp soil, the smell of life. I pushed forward with a renewed, frantic energy, and suddenly, my hand pushed through a curtain of roots and moss into open space. I clawed my way out of the fissure, tumbling onto a carpet of pine needles, blinking against the blinding, beautiful, late afternoon sun. I was out, I was alive. I lay there for a long time just breathing, Every part of my body screamed in protest, but I had never felt more alive. I had made it. The rest is a blur of pain and luck. I was miles from the main trail, but I managed to drag myself to a small service road I recognized from the park map. A maintenance truck found me just as dusk was settling. The driver's shocked face was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. At the hospital, I told the police everything: the fall, the call, Nora, the birdsong. I could see the skepticism in their eyes. A lone hiker suffering from a traumatic injury, dehydration, possible hypothermia, my story sounded like a hallucination. The official report from the Park Service was simple. Gideon Fletcher, reported missing, was found alive after being lost for a day. Case closed. They told me the 911 call had been routed to a regional center, and the operator's name wasn't Nora. They said I must have been confused, but I wasn't confused. I knew what I had heard. For weeks I was obsessed. I couldn't let it go. My post on the hiking forum became my base of operations. It had garnered a few "hope you're okay" man replies after the fact, but now I used it for research. I started digging. I cross-referenced park employee rosters with public records. I spent hours listening to recordings of bird calls to confirm the specific dialect of the white-crowned sparrow in that region. The breakthrough came from another hiker on the forum. He mentioned a ranger who had given him a hard time about his camping permit a few months back, a woman who never seemed to smile, named Nora Vance. The name was all I needed. A little more digging revealed she was a seasonal ranger, and her employment contract was terminated shortly after my rescue. The official reason was a procedural violation. The full story came out in pieces. Nora Vance was involved in poaching rare orchids that grew deep within the park's protected zones. It was a lucrative, illegal trade. My fall had been a freak accident, a 1 in a million chance that put me right on top of one of her hidden harvesting spots. When she reported me missing, she likely assumed my body would never be found, or at least not until she had cleared the area. My 911 call, routed by a quirk of cell tower triangulation to the park's local emergency line at the kiosk instead of the regional center, was a loose end she had to tie up. She couldn't send a rescue team to the one place she couldn't afford for them to be. So she did the only thing she could. She tried to convince me I was already dead, hoping I'd succumb to my injuries and despair. She gambled on my spirit breaking. She lost. Final update: so that's the story. For those of you asking for the satisfying Hollywood ending, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Nora Vance was never charged with attempted murder. My testimony was deemed compromised by my medical state, and there was no recording of the call. The DA said it was my word against hers. She was fired for falsifying the initial missing persons report, claiming she'd seen me leave the park when she hadn't. That was it. A slap on the wrist. She's probably working at another park right now under a different name. I won, I survived, but it doesn't feel like a victory. The truth is, a part of me did die in that hole, the part that believed the world made sense, the part that believed if you screamed for help, someone would answer. Now I live with the echo of that call. Every time my phone rings with an unknown number, my heart seizes up for a second. I'm half expecting to hear that calm, placid voice on the other end, telling me with all the certainty of a government form that I don't really exist.